Okay, this is from the book Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by me, Pete Rogers. I did add the pictures. I didn't have any pictures in the original book. It's just a quote book. If I ever do another edition, I would put these things in it. Okay, so anyways, we're talking about Joseph Campbell. He lived from 1904 to 1987. What he became most famous for was writing about the power of myth and also the hero's journey. And he sort of figured out what sort of makes a story resonate with an audience and make it stand the test of time, if you will. And Star Wars, for example, the movie was sort of based on his theories, Joseph Campbell. That also helped him become famous. So here's some quotes by him. When Rome exited Britain about 420 AD, Britain was left like a pearl without its oyster shell. Okay, so what I like about that quote is that matches the Douglas MacArthur quote on what starts a war. So remember this. This is an important one. What starts a war? When there is undefended wealth. So you will see there's always powerful bullies looking around to rip somebody off. And what makes them eager to rip somebody off is when they think that the other person, the other country has wealth, but they're weak and they can't defend it. So they always make some BS excuse and then they go rip off those people. So that's what usually starts a war. Some powerful bully wants to rip somebody else off. They usually say, oh, so-and-so is a homicidal maniac. We must preemptively act in self-defense by destroying them, okay? That's kind of how it usually goes, and all the chumps buy it. Okay, Joseph Campbell continues, the person who takes a job for money and not for the purpose or passion has turned themselves into a slave. And of course, most people have to do that because they need the money. Plus, a lot of people get tricked. Like I think a lot of doctors, they go into medicine because they want to help people. But the farther they get along in this machine, it's like an assembly line, the more they realize they're sort of just a cog in this giant machine. They're a highly educated assembly line worker, generate billing codes, billing codes, billing codes. And there's always a bean counter at every clinic and hospital saying, where's your beans for today? Where's your billing codes? And if you don't get those billing codes, you're going to get yourself in trouble. They'll say, well, you got to get your billing codes or we're going to let you go. So the doctor doesn't really have a lot of choice. The system's designed to exploit them for as much work as possible, as fast as possible. And if they don't play ball, they're toast. Okay, Joseph Campbell continues. Midlife is when you reach the top of the ladder and you find that it was against the wrong wall. And I think that happens to tons of people. Like, for example, it's good to always have, more than one profitable money-making skill. For me, I was a imaging guided surgeon, but the opportunities in imaging guided surgeon were becoming more and more unpleasant compared to the pay. Don't get me wrong, the pay was good, but it was tons and tons of work. Almost like they wanted me to live in the hospital. I didn't want to do that. Versus neuroradiology, the money was good and the time was much better than it was when I was a surgeon. So and also I was fascinated by the brain for many, many years. And my original decision was eventually imaging guided surgery or neuroradiology. And I tried endovascular neurosurgery, but that had been taken over by regular neurosurgery. All right, so anyways, but the fact that I had that other skill made it easy for me to go into the other field. I was able to adapt. And that's what happens. In midlife also, you'll have another skill. It's hard to monetize creativity, something like I love all this nutrition and health stuff. I love giving lectures and teaching and writing books, but there's no money in it. So I just do it as a hobby. I wish I could do this full time. I wish somebody would sponsor me because I could figure out tons of stuff if I had more time to read. There's tons of diseases out there, and there's nobody really trying to figure out these diseases. The public's under the impression, though, millions and billions of dollars are spent on research. The research is not to help you. No one gives a rat's tail about all the pros. You're a bunch of poor people. No one cares about you. The purpose of medical research is not to cure a disease, not to help anyone. The purpose is to make money by selling a drug. And that's why the research stinks, and that's why it's a joke, and almost 95% of it's a joke, and it's fake, and it's worthless. Real desire to help people doesn't get funded, and so almost never gets funded. So that's why somebody who's smart and really wants to do the reading and understand it, they can figure out tons of stuff. There's tons of opportunities for that. Okay, Joseph Campbell continues. The big question is whether you are going to be able to say yes to a hearty adventure, to your adventure, okay? Sit in a room and read and read and read, and read the right books by the right people. Your mind is brought onto that level, and you will have a nice, mild, slow, burning rapture all the time. Okay, so what he's sort of saying there reminds me of Aristotle. Aristotle said learning is the greatest pleasure because unlike the other pleasures that wax and wane, it can be continued all through the day. And he's right. It's a great pleasure to do something interesting and to read and to learn. Like I hear about people talking about, when you study, set an egg timer every 30 minutes, take a break, every 10 minutes, take a break. That's true when you're learning new hard stuff. You need to take breaks more often. But when you're doing something you enjoy, like let's say I'm writing a book, I'll often find myself sitting in the chair, absorbed in what I'm doing for 3 hours at a time. Like, hey, I need to take a break. Go do the laundry or something. So when you like it, you get into a flow mind state. Okay, so anyways, here is the famous hero's journey of Joseph Campbell. Basically, the hero starts out in a familiar world, like his childhood, coming of age, and that's how the lead character is introduced to the audience. Okay, it's familiar, it's predictable, you get a little sense of their character, and then there's a call to action, something they desperately want, some desperate emergency, or some just unfortunate escapade, and they're thrown into a foreign world, whatever that might be. For me, that was when I went away from my beloved high school to my faraway Stanford, which was a miserable and lonely place. Okay, so in the unknown world, they don't know what to do. They initially have setbacks and screw-ups and failures, and they're sort of in the belly of the whale, if you will, lost innocence. They sort of hit rock bottom. Like I was at rock bottom, I'd say, when I was a sophomore in college, and the coach was threatening to take my scholarship away. I hadn't had a date. My old girlfriend broke up with me. My life was pretty miserable. I was afraid I was going to flunk out of school. So that's when I sort of turned everything around, luckily. And as they often say, a mentor or a sage, a coach, a teacher comes along. And for me, that was the Schultz brothers, especially Mark Schultz. He sort of said, Rogers, nothing wrong with you. You don't need to quit. Hang around with me. And so he was a world and Olympic champion. I'm like, yes, coach, I'll do whatever you say. I hung around with him, and I got much better at wrestling. And I found a guy also likewise for academics who was getting A pluses. And I just hung around with him, and all of a sudden I started getting A pluses in the most difficult classes at Stanford. But having those people that teach you and coach you really helps you. And then you also, once you start getting real successful, all of a sudden, though, you start running into all this type of stuff. 2 steps up, 1 step back. 2 steps up, 1 step back. And I've gone through that a billion times. And you just have to, that's why you have to have confidence and determination and a strong sense of purpose, because you're always going to get smacked down. And the more successful you get, the more people want to smack you down. And it just doesn't go away. And if you think it's going to go away, you're probably not going to make it, because it's always going to be there. That's why having a sense of destiny and purpose pushes you through all the hassles and setbacks and BS that happens to you. That's inevitable. Okay, so I think that's important to know. And this is a really good, you can watch videos on the internet about the hero's journey of Joseph Campbell. It's helpful to watch that. You'll have more metacognition, awareness of what's going on with you. Okay, so Joseph Campbell continues, if the path before you is clear, you are probably on someone else's path. Yeah, like if you just want to be a doctor because your parents told you to, that's okay, and that might still work out fine, but if it seems that clear, you're probably doing something that someone else wanted you. Maybe that's okay, maybe it's not. Joseph Campbell, when you follow your bliss, doors will open where you would not have thought there would be doors, and where there wouldn't be a door for anyone else. There's a little bit of truth in that. People will support you if they can sense that you're for real and you're really going for it. But on the other hand, it's tough when you take a path that's not sanctioned by big money, because then you're not going to have big money behind you. Okay, if you are on the right path, you will find that invisible hands are helping. There's some truth in that. Some good things do happen just because people sense you're sincere and they see your accumulated effort. Joseph Campbell, the ultimate aim of the quest must be wisdom and power to serve others. And I do think there's some truth in that. I've had experiences where powerful people were hassling me, trying to make me miserable and screw me over. And then lots of people who don't have any power, but there was a whole bunch of them, supported me. And it became pretty obvious I was telling the truth and I was right. And I did okay in those situations because of that. So it helps to just always be good. You know what I mean? Because someday that'll add up in your favor. Even though most of the time it won't make any difference at all and be irrelevant, someday it'll add up in your favor. It actually does. Okay, Joseph Campbell, a hero is someone who has given his or her life to something bigger than oneself. There's also truth in that. Have a big goal, because if you have a big goal, you'll generate lots of energy and you'll accomplish a lot more. And I think it's good to have a good goal. I'm trying to save the proles, even though I know hardly any of them are ever going to see me or listen to me. I'm trying to save Western civilization, even though I know hardly anyone reads my books or pays attention to my videos. But they're there for what it's worth. A few smart people will learn them and maybe pass them on, like how the Irish saved civilization again, okay? And secretly, that's kind of what I like. I'd like to be like Aristotle, like St. Thomas Aquinas, okay? Aristotle summarized the useful knowledge of his day. Thomas Aquinas showed that faith and reason go together. And I actually think you can't have good science without religion, because it's religion that provides a moral foundation and truth. And if you don't have it, it just degenerates into money, fake advertising, which is like most research nowadays. Okay, Joseph Campbell continues. what I think is a good life is one hero journey after another, over and over again. You are called to the realm of adventure. You are called to the horizons. Each time there is the same problem. Do I dare to try this? And then if you do dare, what are the dangers? And is there also help along the way? Is it going to be fulfillment or fiasco? There is always the possibility of a fiasco, but there's also the possibility of bliss. Okay, so there's a lot of truth in that, and you just have to go for it, accept the fact that you might be disappointed, accept the fact that no one cares and you're going to be ignored most of the time. And like I said, I told you, like my kid came up to me, this is not that long ago, this is about 2 years ago, and he said, Dad, why are you so happy? Your life sucks. All you do is work at the hospital, then you come home, you read, you study, you write books, you make YouTube videos. That's like your whole life. Your life kind of sucks. You don't do almost anything. Why don't you go to the beach with mommy? I'm like, well, I don't want to be out in the sun. I don't like sunscreen, and why waste the whole day when I can stand in front of the house for 30 minutes? And he's like, Dad, your life, it really sucks. I go, well, I'm happy. He goes, and why are you so happy? I'm like, because I'm fulfilling my destiny. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. When I read a book, I know that I'm probably, I read a scientific paper. I understand it as well or better than anyone else in the whole world. I enjoy that. That's interesting to me. And he kind of gave me this look, well, I'm glad you're happy, but it still doesn't really make a lot of sense. Joseph Campbell. The ultimate aim of the quest must be wisdom and the power to serve others. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Okay, so that was Joseph Campbell, the guy famous for The Power of Myth and The Hero's Journey. And if you watch, there's lots of videos about him if you're curious. It's good for structuring, like writing a fiction novel or play, things that hold it together, the whole hero's journey. So I hope that was helpful and interesting.